The court ruled when it came to Justin Baldwin's case. Not when it came to Blake Lively's case. She is not vindicated, but she feels vindicated anyway. Kody Brown became the topic of conversation last night on Sister Wives. And in an interesting turn of events, Miss Janelle Brown, who is the ex-wife of Kody, explained to Suki what love bombing was. She actually explained the cycle related to narcissists, and she called Kody a narcissist. Now she said she could not diagnose Kody with being a narcissist. She said she watches pop culture and she reads pop culture, and so he fits and matches a lot of the marks. So listen, I don't know if she's ever watched me. I don't know that she needed to watch me. But there's been a lot of us that have been reporting that Kody's a narcissist for a long time. And if anything, I was doing it for the sole purpose, in the hopes that someday one of the women would wake up and see this. And also just to educate others about what happens with narcissists. Now Kody's lies in this last bit of the tell. All this part 3 were out of the park, and I'm going to kind of split this video up and this episode up into different episodes this week, but this specific part I want to talk about. Because the narcissistic side of the coin, or Janelle calling him a narcissist, stemmed from conversations about Coyote Pass and how Kody has used and weaponized the insecurities of the women against them and used the things that matter to them the most to hurt them. And this is how Janelle has been able to wrap her mind around the idea that Kody would accuse her of being in charge of the money when the facts are that it wasn't true. And what is also interesting is that a couple years ago, I told you that Janelle had seen the books and had noticed that Cody and Robyn were basically like liquidating the family account. And Christine confirmed that to a degree. She said that she was told by Janelle that Kody and Robyn were taking way more from the family fund than anyone else. And there was conversations about any time people would confront Kody and Robyn about money, they would get mad. So let's break down a few of these clips. I think he really is just kind of inherently selfish, like we didn't know. We never knew what the other wives were getting. Money-wise, we just understood what we had. But Janelle saw it all, and Janelle doesn't say much. And she's very tight-lipped. She's like, there were Defin I saw where all the money was going, and how much money Kody took and how much money Robyn took was a lot more than you were taking, and it was more than anybody else was taking. I'm like, why is that fair? And then Kody would just decide to buy tons of whatever assets that he would call assets, and he would just go spend family money on that. So I fully believe that this is true because it matches what I was told. And this was one of the reasons why everything in the family fell apart, because they didn't trust each other. Robyn and Kody believed that all the money belonged to them wives were not getting their needs met, and Kody and Robyn were living on their money, and not while everyone else was trying to figure out what they were going to do, and Kody and Robyn were just hoarding the money for themselves, as evidenced by all their crap and dolls. Christine doesn't think that Kody and Robyn will be fair. We know at this point the Coyote Pass has been settled, but some of what Coyote Pass is, it's just one part of all the finances that they held together. None of this is going to change the fact that these women had so much money stolen for them, and it's highlighted the disparity between a woman that has a legal marriage versus a woman that does not have a legal marriage. Because Suki made clear that none of these women who left Kody had any legal recourse for anything, because they could not get alimony and or have a division of property because nothing was deemed joint property. Thus, what you're watching here should be proof that these types of partnerships and relationships that are not consensual or legal should not exist. The first corporate paycheck, Robyn never received any of the money when we bought our houses. Robyn's kickback from the house went to other family members now that the older children are through school. And we all worked together to buy their cars, to help them to pay them and stuff like that. Now we're all separate, and nobody's helping with the younger children. I found that specific part of Kody's behavior last night one of the worst things he's ever said, because he didn't answer questions about the misappropriation of money. Instead, he did what a narcissist does, and he deflected and projected, and he made an outright lie about Robyn not getting money from the first paycheck. Which, by the way, one paycheck, okay? The first paycheck, come on, Kody. She brought in 40 grand worth of debt into your family. And his motive here is not to actually answer questions about him being unquitable here. It's instead to try to deflect that, show that Robyn was so gracious with her money when you can't even a rational person would not look at the way that they live versus everyone else and see how they the things that they have versus everyone else, and think, yes, Cody and Robyn are completely living completely equitably to everyone else and don't have more than anyone else. And the last part of it is really what got me so upset, because he had the audacity to say, well, now that the older kids are gone, none of them want to help with Robyn's kids. I'm sorry, what do Robyn's younger children have to do with Christine, Janelle, and Meri? Why is it their responsibility to take care of those kids when throughout the entire show, they all said that they took care of their own children? And it's also very ridiculous for him to say this because they have no legal OBL obligation to take care of kids that are not their blood. He's actually the one that at this time wasn't paying child support for any of his children, wasn't paying child support for Truly. But he wants Meri, Janelle, and Christine to provide money for Cody's to take care of his own children. Why would Cody need money from other women to provide for the children he has with Robyn? What does that even say about him? That I have contributed a lot to the family, and it's not recognized. And, it wasn't until I sat there and had a conversation with Cody and Robyn and my accountant showing them, this is how I've contributed, because this was years ago. And after that, he was like, oh, okay, because I think that he thought that I was keeping money from the family. This part of the episode actually made my stomach drop because that sounds like human trafficking. To me, Meri didn't have any family she wasn't living in a house with any of these people. Her oldest child she paid for on her own. They didn't get help from anyone else to pay for anything related to Leon's school. Meri paid for her own mortgage, she paid for her own rent. She paid for her own everything. And then on top of what she was doing with Lulau and all of these MLMs, she was giving a portion of her income to Cody and Robyn, which they felt they were entitled to simply because they're Cody and Robyn. Why would Meri's income that is solely for her and outside of anyone else be necessary for anyone in this family? Cody's responsibility is to take care of his own kids. But to me, it sounds like Cody and Robyn were unable to live with inside their own means. And so they had to basically extort the other women to pay them. So really, Meri's working for free if she's giving her money to them, and she has to sit down with them, with her accountant, to prove that she didn't hide money from them. In what world does an unmarried woman need to prove to anyone what she does with her money? If she's making money through Lula or any of these MLMs that she has, that's her money and her money alone. Cody and Robyn are sick, and the fact that they still believe that they're entitled to money is disgusting. And it's probably why it took them so long to finally sign off on Coyote Pass, and for Robyn to act like, oh, it's just recency bias. Ryan, Robyn, this proves to me the only reason they wanted Meri to stay was for money. And that's the only reason why they would continue anything with any of these women is for money, because Janelle didn't handle the debts. No, because she had a different perspective before her, and I broke up about how things should be. She had too much influence on our money, and in the end, we're just getting us straightened out at the end. I think that there, like I said, is a recency bias, and there's rewriting of history a lot. And I feel like, now it's all about getting even with each other, and I feel like it's all about, trashing each other. Cody and Robyn's response to basically everything is either blaming someone else or just pretending like people are just yelling at them for no reason. So Cody then blamed Janelle for leaving him and Robyn in debt, with a lot of mess to pick up and clean up, as though somehow she controlled the money, which everyone knows is not true. And so it wasn't until recently that Cody was able to get through all of these things to figure everything out, because she didn't care about the finances the way that they did, even though they're the ones that were spending all the money. And for Robyn, her response is basically to just say that everyone is just pointing fingers and recency bias and making accusations. But she doesn't answer the questions, literally ever. Why doesn't Suki ask Cody, why is it their responsibility to take care of the kids? Cody, why is it Janelle, Christine, and Meri's responsibility to take care of the kids that you and your wife have since when was that their responsibility? They dumped you and also Cody and Robyn. Why can't you take care of your own kids? You mean to tell me this whole time they were all paying for your kids and you were taking from theirs? That's right, that's what I thought. Okay, thanks for confirming. And then this is where Rob Janelle starts talking about narcissists. For a narcissist, there's a cycle where you love bomb and then there sort of is a waning, and then you almost kind of like destroy or hurt them. And then to fix it, you come back in and you love bomb. And so there was kind of this cycle. You use the word narcissist. Are you saying Kody's a narcissist? No, because I am not CL. I am not qualified to diagnose him. I guess everybody will have to decide. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I read pop culture. I have no idea. But it does seem like there's quite a lot of similarities. So after all that time of Suki trying to make sense of what Kody and Robyn were doing, Janelle tried to explain to her that what we're seeing here is a narcissist making up excuses, lying, creating chaos, deflecting. In the case of Janelle, he's accusing Janelle of not being smart enough to manage the finances because that is something that is important to her, is that it's her intelligence, her ability to manage books. She has a B, she has bachelor's degree in, I think, finance. She has worked her whole career up until the show in the world of finance or in accounting. And because of her background, she prides herself on being fiscally responsible, and Kody likes to weaponize that against her. And so she was trying to explain that this is what narcissists do. They create a mess, and then once they create a mess, they come back to you and they love bomb you, and then they devalue you and discard you, and then they have to hoover to clean it all up again. And it's a cycle with them, so you'll never be able to make sense of the crap that they spew because none of what they say is logical. It's all just a means for them to get out of responsibility, to not take responsibility. He will never take responsibility for misappropriating money. He will never take responsibility for taking advantage of the women. He will never take advantage. He will never take responsibility for the cruel comments that he says, how he certainly was able to feel justified to sit Meri down and demand that she prove that she wasn't hiding money from him, right? Or that he'll never feel bad that he wasn't attracted to Christine and stayed in a marriage with her for all of those years. He'll never feel bad that he wrote in a book that her eating nachos was like the most disgusting thing he had ever seen. He'll never feel bad that he called her chubby. He'll never feel bad for calling Meri cruel or rude or, scary. Whatever he can do to try to devalue them and hurt them where it hurts the most to keep them vulnerable and dependent, the better. Because if he can abuse their self-esteem, they're not going to feel worthy enough to leave him, right? Suki had a lot of opportunities to do follow-up. And I don't know if she did or if this is the editing, but they left a lot of these conversations open-ended. There was a lot of things that Kody said that the other women were not asked about. Or if they were, it wasn't pieced together to include like Kody saying, Janelle left me without money, or they're not paying for our kids. Or there was one comment about how Robyn and Kody got kicked out of the family for showing PDA, which is ridiculous, and we'll talk about that later. But in this case, when it comes to money, there was no accountability. It seems like Suki has a really hard time disconnecting Kody and Robyn from the persona that they portray to her, because she has 3 women that are sitting there in front of her, telling her that they have been abused, used, manipulated, and harmed. And she's still showing some level of empathy for Kody and encouraging reconciliation with this family. If you had a friend like Suki that W was pushing women that were abused to reconcile with their abuser, that's a shitty friend. Let's just say it out loud. That's a shitty friend. And I know she's just doing a job and she's being paid by TLC to do this, but there's been such a disservice here to skate over such serious topics of, wait a minute, they made you sit down and prove that you weren't stealing money. There's no counterpoint. Like, wait a minute, this isn't normal, this is weird. Why would you do this? Is illegal. There's no experts to come in and explain, like, these women have been exploited and trafficked and humiliated and destroyed and controlled, and now you're giving them the victims a voice. But then they also have the abuser getting a part of the platform. And that's just the part of it that makes me so sad for them. Because even today, Kody and Robyn still feel justified in the theft of the money. They still feel justified that these women owe them money, that they believe that Meri, Janelle, and Christine should be taking care of their kids. I have a son. I can't imagine expecting anyone but me and my husband to take care of him. What kind of entitlement do you have that you believe that you have the right to expect other women to take care of the children that came out of your uterus or your man-bits creating that seed? He's been living in a land of delusion, and this show is just, it's gross. So what are your thoughts about this? Were you shocked to hear these admissions by Kody? Were you shocked to hear these denials by Robyn? Were you shocked to hear the confessions by Meri? And what were you impressed to hear Janelle actually acknowledged that Kody is a narcissist? And were you also surprised that there was no follow-up on this to expand with any of the other women? Please like and subscribe.